an incredible student who is taking on Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay law. Zander Moricz is the first openly gay class president at his Sarasota high school. He is also the youngest public plaintiff in a federal lawsuit against Florida to strike down the law.
If you're doing this for Florida or the United States or for freedom, you are a false patriot, and we can tell. My name is Zander. I am a student. I am an activist. I am a brother and a son. I'm a queer man, and all of me is threatened by this legislation.
Tonight, in a stunning escalation, Moricz claims that he is being censored by his high school after his principal warned him not to mention his activism or the lawsuit in his upcoming graduation speech. He says that doing so would force the school to cut his microphone and halt the ceremony. But Moricz is fighting back and speaking out, organizing a Say Gay initiative that aims to send 10,000 stickers to seniors across the state to wear as they walk across the graduation stage.
As expected, these stories are starting to become more prominent as that Don't Say Gay bill was implemented down there in Florida. This one about a high school class president, Zander Moricz, as you heard there, was threatened by his principal to cut off his microphone if he mentions anything as far as his activism or his issues when it comes around the LGBTQ issues, because why should we hear from him? There was more details of that meeting he had with his principal. Watch more.
Told by your principal that they may cut your microphone. Did the principal specifically say, some kind of activism is good or bad? Or did he specifically say, if you mention anything about your queer identity, that they're gonna cut the mic? What were the parameters that he laid out to you, or that your principal laid out to you when they sort of put out this threat?
So the parameters were very vague, as the language of the bill is, and as everything involving this LGBTQ censorship is. I came into the meeting and the room just felt disgusting. It's like when a jury is going to sentence someone to death and they don't make eye contact and everything's choppy and weird. And then they let me know that the reason it was problematic is because the activism is controversial. And that was heartbreaking and made me tremendously angry, because I was told that my human rights are controversial, and then I was told to go.
Let's jump right off the topic before we get to details about the reasons why and some of his background and the work he's done as far as his activism and hope for bringing some kind of equality for gay folks. But first of all, Jessica, just your thoughts on this potential censorship of this class president at their graduation for what he hasn't even said yet.
Yeah, coming from the party of free speech, who has been talking ad nauseum that this bill is improperly being called the Don't Say Gay bill because it's about sex education for children under 3rd grade in the classroom. That's clearly not what this bill is about. And they've just been lying to garner public support for this bill that's clearly homophobic and trying to silence members of the LGBTQ+ community. And I think what they say in the meeting makes it pretty clear that even with how vague the bill is, they're not really protected by the bill with what they're trying to do here by cutting his mic, which is pretty extreme.
And some of the details of what he had in conversations he had with his principal might point out what he's actually worried about. Let's look into some of this, because his principal, Stephen Covert of Pine View School in Osprey, Florida, which is roughly 70 miles south of Tampa, warned him that if his graduation speech referenced his LGBTQ activism, school officials would cut his mic, as we heard there. Also, he said that he just wanted families to have a good day. And if I was to discuss who I am and the fight to be who I am, that it would sour the celebration, is what Moricz, who's 18-year-old, recalled. It was incredibly dehumanizing. So in order to have a good day, you have to be able, you have to shut down this kid's microphone, make sure he can't say anything. But if he did shut down his microphone because he mentions who he is, does that make everyone have a good day, or does that make it very uncomfortable? And now everyone's wondering what it is that's going on and why they're censoring this kid. So there's more, because the principal released a statement through the Sarasota County Schools. In a statement, the district confirmed Covert and Moritz's meeting, adding that graduation speeches are routinely reviewed to ensure that they are appropriate to the tone of the ceremony. Out of respect for all those attending the graduation, students are reminded that a graduation should not be a platform for personal political statements, especially those likely to disrupt the ceremony, is what the district said. Should a student vary from this expectation during the graduation, it may be necessary to take appropriate action. And again, the principal's issues here are fear around this potentially happening. We can link it back to this bill. So in the principal's defense, Moricz added that he was astonished because Covert's demand did not reflect his previous actions, in their 4 years of working together. Moricz said that he strongly believes that the request was in response to a newly enacted state law, which critics have dubbed, as we've been mentioning, the Don't Say Gay law. Because Zander is engaged in activism and his principal knew about it and he discussed it with him and he had no issues then. What changed? What changed from the 4 years that he was there to then him now meeting a new principal that has a completely different take on allowing him to speak his mind? You wonder that sometimes. Do you have any other thoughts on this, Jess?
Yeah, I mean, the bill says, grades K through 3 cannot be taught in a manner that's not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students. Appropriate and controversial are very different things. And I think you can argue that anything is political. You could go up there and talk about anything. I bet we could politicize it. To say that that's a reason for him to not talk about his LGBTQ activism in his speech is ridiculous. And honestly, I think you can argue that it's not protected in this bill because this has nothing to do about something being age appropriate. They said in the meeting that this is about it being controversial, it being political.
And everyone having a
but I think we're gonna, yeah, seriously. And we're gonna continue to see them try and use this legislation to do this all over the place, regardless of what age the kids are in schools. And I bet we're gonna see them expand this beyond the schools as well.
It's an example of the chilling effect it'll have and the reasons why this bill is outside of even what it says, it's doing these types of things as well.